Welcome to the Transportation Channel, coming to you from ITS America Conference and Expo here in Detroit. I'm Michelle Quadt, and today I'm joined by Mac Hill from Wowza. Wowza is here highlighting how transportation agencies are evolving video infrastructure from simple streaming and monitoring to more intelligent operational systems. We'll touch on Mississippi DOT's statewide deployment and Wowza's video intelligence framework. But the bigger story is how agencies are managing scale, operational visibility, and AI integration across increasingly complex transportation environments. Matt, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Let's start with getting to know you. Could you briefly introduce yourself and share how your role connects to supporting transportation agency deployments and operational environments?
Sure. It's great to be here,
Yeah.
by the way. Thank you. I'm Mac Hill. I'm the Senior Director of Global Technical Account Management at Wowza. And I'd say over the last 10 years, it's been an opportunity to help DOTs and agencies to be able to just ensure their video is running successfully, right? And so anytime there's an issue, if there's an issue, it was always my team that they reached out to get the help with. So that's how we have the insights to these teams.
Do you have I tend to find in this industry in particular, people have a why behind their focus on this space and the things that are happening here. What is your why?
It's really interesting. People's lives are at stake, and moving just traffic through is very important. Nobody likes a traffic jam, and everybody wants their people to come home safe, right? So that's really our why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
exciting.
as you look, you talked about 10 years ago to now, what are some of the biggest shifts that you've been seeing in this space?
Wow, more and more cameras, more spots as people are looking at the important places. They look at interchanges and bridges. They're looking at those dangerous roads that have, unfortunately, common occurrences, and they want to know how to make it better and to react better. But the other thing that's interesting is, I don't want to say the old days, but technology advances so quickly. I remember in Washington, D.C., they used to have mobile cameras cellularly streaming live as they were plowing streets and feeding back to the command center, the monitoring centers. And so to see where we've come with dash cams and everything so much today, it just continues to evolve. So yeah, just more eyes for more data to hopefully get better results.
So tell me a little bit more about Wowza. I mean, it's not a company that many might be familiar with. However, you're sitting behind a lot of really important and a huge number of transportation streaming video infrastructure. So tell us a little bit more about the organization.
Yeah, so Wowza was founded in 2007, and at the time we were just a media streaming server software. That was our goal, was to bring in any source, to output any protocol, and play back on any device. That was the goal. And I think over the last 20 years, we've begun to evolve, and as we've worked with more integrators, we've become an infrastructure, video infrastructure underneath the layer of everything they're building. So we're a piece powering them beneath. Wowza has powered behind the scenes up to 60% of the online video platforms. We've about a third of the media CDNs that are out there. Where nobody really knows our name,
Yeah.
but here we are. So yeah,
So it's not like a quiet powerhouse sitting there that is.
it became that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're with new leadership and new focus on customer centricity, we're realizing we have more to offer, and not to be above and beyond what we already are, but to double down and be better within the industries as that layer.
So tell me some of your thoughts on what you've seen, the way that DOTs are running video now, and what change is taking place.
Yeah. So with DOTs, I think it all starts with the camera, right? I think a camera, they're very strategic about where it goes, where it's placed, what it's looking for, and it has impact. They need information back. And so over the years, as they've added more and more cameras, they need more and more operators to watch walls of videos, and they cycle through. And I think where we've become is they've been faster feeding that information into different sources, EMSs. And so I think as they put video infrastructure in place all around states, roads, and their infrastructure, we're seeing them more and more looking for the data to do something to take action, to do something sooner, faster, better.
Yeah.
That's what they're
So, because you described this wall of videos, right? And, you know, and the human eye can't take in everything that it needs to. So now, how does the intelligence start to come in to be able to take action from that faster and recognize it?
But yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah. So let's turn to Mississippi DOT
Sure.
specifically. I think you guys have over 1,100 traffic cameras
We do.
statewide. That, you know, and so that type of scale we were just talking about is tremendous. So, you know, what do deployments like that teach us about managing transportation video infrastructure on a statewide scale?
Sure. Yeah, Mississippi's interesting because they were I would say they were innovative in that knowing that they had so many cameras and they continue to add, it's hard to go in and work every single camera over to say I'm going to put one in. I have to configure it at the server. Then you got to wire it through the rest of their pipeline of the workflow, right? And so what they did is they built an intelligence layer over the top, and so they use our APIs on our server, Wowza streaming engine, and so they're able to stand up a camera in some location, and then they can choose a region, and they say go find the camera comes back, and it just automagically goes through and configures everything for them. So they've collapsed this time to getting a camera online to hours, which is great. The cool thing about that is they go further, and let's say a camera is having an issue. An operator can say, okay, he hits a button and it just rebuilds it. He doesn't have to go in, figure it out, dissect it, do anything. It's just get it done and let's move on, which has been great. And same thing even at a larger scale. If a server goes down or a node goes down, they can push a button and move hundreds of streams over to another server like that. And so, you know, the important piece is they never want to lose eyes on, right? And so that's been huge for them. And so as they've done that, with that scale, with that momentum in programming and automation, you know, they're basically at the step of what's next, and what's next for them is intelligence. How do we begin to look at all of these cameras, provide data that means something, and we can act upon?
Very cool. And I do want to dig into that intelligence layer, but a question I had, and I'm not a camera expert, so you're
Sure.
going to help me here for a second. But there's lots of new technology that's coming on, and so of course the DOTs are thinking about when they're putting up new things and using the new technology, but they have a lot of existing technology that they've already invested.
Right.
How do you guys think about that? Integrating in the existing assets with, you know, new things that are coming online.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll start with the phrase that we like to say lately as we're looking at our video intelligence framework is that we have no camera left behind. That's our hope. That's our desire. Because listen, these state entities, these government entities, budget is everything, and it's almost like they have to fight for it year over year over year. And so even 5 or 6 years ago, when they got those 6 cameras, it just continues to accumulate. And so the idea of going in and having to replace that not only is it a waste of money, they're already working. They're already doing what they need to be doing to provide the data to be read. And so, not that the new technology is bad, but we can use it all and have them coincide.
Yeah, fuse it together. Yeah, you make a mention of your video intelligence framework. So help me understand what that's doing to. That's this intelligent layer,
Sure.
right? So tell me more about the thinking there.
So I think the important thing first and foremost with video intelligence framework is everything that already exists stays as is. Right? So we're not asking anyone to pull anything out or change anything. It actually comes in alongside it. And it's able to look at every single frame coming into the server from all of those cameras. And what we do, we're not an AI company. We're not here to consult people on AI. We want to give them the opportunity to connect their AI logic to look for the specific things that are important to them, right? And so it sits alongside it. It looks at certain frames. It'll do some sort of detection. It can do a scene detection, whatever they want to bring into play. That's the AI logic, and then it reports. And this is the important part. It's not just data. They can say, out of this information, if I see X, I need to tell somebody about it, right? And so that sort of ties back to the operators that we're talking about, looking at walls. Like if my intelligence could say, take a break, identify the thing that's important, but then raise its virtual hand and say, hey, you need to look at this now. This is the most important thing. Lock in, make a decision. It would go so much further.
So does your technology, I want to make sure I understand it. So you help bring in all the feeds to a place so that they can be understood, and then you create the, please tell me if I get this
So
wrong.
you're good.
You have the APIs so that those who have the use cases and may want to use that to pull out whatever intelligence that they want to can do it from there? Or are you also creating some of that intelligence yourself?
We're not actually creating the intelligence, but no, we're giving the ability for intelligence to look at, and
Okay.
assess, and decide.
Yeah.
But then it feeds the data back to us in a way that we can send it out in 6 or
Got
7
it,
different
okay.
data ways. So,
Yeah.
so for example, let's say it just wants to do an alert on screen, or it wants to text somebody or page somebody or whatever, right? It can send that information on and say, you need to do this.
Got it.
In addition to that, it can send those signals that already exist with like their BMSs that they've already paid for. It just coincides.
Got it.
And so the whole, for me, and you talked about why is the passion,
Yeah.
for me is it reduces any human error.
Mm-hmm.
It puts humans in a place of decision making, not just doing, and allows us to act. And so if we can collapse a window of reaction time, 15 minutes to seconds, that's amazing.
And really what you're describing there too is the role that Wowza plays in that ecosystem, happening and doing that integration, which with the technology today, I find it's so much more important to have those partnerships and that ability to create the openness for that back and forth, so that what you're strongest at is what you're doing, what the other is strongest at, it comes in, but it's seamless to the customer at the end.
Right.
And the commercial models are there for them to be able to get to it.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We just want to be great at what we do
Yeah.
and not try to do what everybody else does.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Do you have any standout examples for right now in Mississippi or elsewhere that you're just like blown away with what is happening on the ground that maybe couldn't even have happened 5-7 years ago?
Well, I mean, I think Mississippi was a great example just because they knew that they were hindered by budget, that they needed to automate things because adding more people doesn't always fix the problem. And it's costly. And so bringing in more automations when it comes to deployment, when it comes to even monitoring, and then even taking action and engaging, being able to send signals, but also the video that they send off to say EMS or any of the emergency services or to the public through the map apps where it's like, can I go to grandma's or not? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of amazing things happening there, and it just continues to evolve. And like social media, people can be more engaged and understand, what does this mean for my morning? What does this mean for our family trip? What does this mean for me, beyond DOT, any travel at all? Like how can I be a part of this, and what are my impacts? And it gives you, the person, the traveler, or whether you're running the command center, it gives you the ability to make decisions sooner, faster, better. And I think it's a natural progression in DOT. It's where it should be going.
Yeah.
Because like ITS has statistics on how many accidents there are a month, and and their goal, all of our goals should be to make that better. How do we make those better? And lower those numbers. So that's the progression of where we're at. And AI helps. AI is not the solution. And anybody, if you've talked to anybody in AI, if you don't have good data, if you don't have good processes, if you don't have a good pipeline to do something about it, it doesn't mean anything.
So I have a technical question on this. I used to work in telecommunications, and one of the things that we worried about a lot was the amount of data that flows from these cameras, right? That is going across, particularly when there's real-time decisions that are being made off of that. Well, that's a tremendous amount that, sometimes the communication networks can handle, and sometimes they can't, or they can handle it, but it can be really expensive. So a lot of what we would talk about is edge compute and the ability to do the processing of the data so that only the right amount of information flows. How do you guys think about that architecture for, because we all know AI takes a lot of compute power.
Yes.
And so how do you think about that technical architecture for the flow of data?
Yeah, and I would say first, you're right to call that out, because it's all over the place right now. There are edge cameras who are doing processing and sending some signals. Well, they're sending a lot of data, but it's just bits, right? And so it is what it is. Or you're shipping it up to the cloud to be processed and then shipped back down to make a decision. There's that. But I think what's interesting about it is that nothing changes for our data flow. So the same video is coming in, and we're just looking at a frame. and so it's on the side. So let's say, and I'm going to make up numbers. This is make believe. I'm not going to do anything crazy, but I could have a server GPU on the side looking at hundreds of cameras because it's just assessing a frame at whatever rate you want. So let's say a camera. I'm going to get slightly technical. A camera is usually about 30 frames per second. So that's how many frames it takes so that when a car is going by, it's not jaggy laggy, right?
Yeah.
And so you could say, I just want to look every 15 frames, or you set that pace. So obviously, the more frames you assess, the more intensive it is, right? And so, but it looks at the frame, identifies if there's anything there or not, and if there's nothing there in our infrastructure, we chuck it. We're looking for a specific thing. If it's not there, we don't worry about it. You can do a logging, you can do all those other things if you want, but we find that the information, we can get information overload. And so how do we, at that point, we keep it all within your infrastructure. So it doesn't have to leave anywhere and generate more bandwidth or generate any other craziness. As long as you've got one GPU that can do all the thinking and processing and alerting, that's all it takes. So we're not saturating anything that's already on your network.
Well, and you talked about the ability to keep some of that in the control of the customer too, right? Of where that data goes and where it
Which
flows.
is vital.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. Where do you see
Yeah.
the key is on that
Yeah,
right now?
data is key, and data ownership is huge, and more the government privacy plays a huge role in all of this. And so we believe that it's the customer's data to do with what they want. And so you can deploy as the customer making your own decision. You could put all of your cameras like a DOT is doing now, and if they wanted to host the logic out in the cloud, they could. They're still in control of that infrastructure, and it's theirs to do with whatever they want. But we even go so far beyond DOTs where it's air gap, meaning that it doesn't touch any outside network ever. They're in control of it. So it doesn't need to go anywhere. It processes, it thinks, it never leaves the facility. So we think that is your prerogative as a customer to decide what you do with that data and stay within your own guidelines. But we don't want to be in the data regulation business, right? And so, and many times, depending on the solutions, you do have to go to them on their platform to do the thinking and get the information back. And then you get into a weirdness of who owns the data.
Well, and it varies from state to state too on what that looks like and what their requirements are. Some of it is actual regulatory requirements, and some of it is just their choice of how they
Yeah.
they
And I will do a Wowza plug. I mean, Wowza from the beginning, we wanted to be the most customizable, most customer available type software. And this, for us, this continues that. So customers could build whatever they wanted to build in the Java piece to do different things, and it was theirs to do. It's not ours. It's their code, and that's why we believe the data is completely theirs as well.
So stepping back is if agencies are just beginning this journey, right? What is the first step that they should be thinking about to make sure they're headed on that journey that is, future proof, for lack of a better word?
I mean, getting started, there's what we call the low hanging fruit, right? Make sure your cameras are working. That's
a good one.
That's where
Yeah.
your information lives. That's so if something's drifting or if you're trying to do something on PTZs, you just got to make sure it's working consistently. Otherwise, you won't get consistent data, right? And then probably the most important subsection B would be you've got to document every camera. Where is it at? What is it doing? What is its purpose? And if you see something, what do you want the outcome to be? Right? Because if you can define all of that, then setting all of the AI up, it's going to be much easier.
You're talking about drifting. One of the things I've heard about is this ability to auto back, either get that camera back where it needs to be, or the ways to know what it's actually looking is can be interpreted where the lane lines are. What are some of those things other than that you're seeing that are in this? And it's okay for all technical here.
I mean, this is a little more on the camera piece.
Yeah.
I would say there's you've always had on site and tweak or update or change tables and stuff, and that's a piece of it. And I'm gonna jump because I think it's AI stuff. Even with with video intelligence, if something looks like the camera lens or tilts off of where you have it, those are alerts we can also send out. And he needs to go fix the camera, right?
Right.
And so, but as far as seeing those are the things they're doing now.
Okay.
It's just how to use it.
Yeah.
Now, personally, we don't set the camera to say do better, but we're giving them
The,
something about
the information to
what
go
is
down.
off. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So, just to start to wrap up, what do you see as this opportunity that maybe being sitting at ITSA 40th anniversary 5 years from now, our conversation is?
Really honestly hope that conversation is that as an industry, not just DOTs, but anybody who's doing AI, that products that we're putting out are all human centered, that we're doing right. We really do. Humanity is what it is, but as long as we stay engaged and look out for each other and do the right things and get the best outcomes, I think it's going to be a whole different place in 5 years, for sure.
It's awesome. I think that's a great place to end. That future of transportation video, it's not about just adding more cameras or more analytics. It's about really bringing those pieces together for that operationally intelligent infrastructure that's going to help us achieve all of those things that our infrastructure owners are looking to do, and that the users of the transportation system are relying on that occurring. So thank you again for joining me. Thanks to everyone who watches the Transportation Channel, and we look forward to continuing the conversation around the future of transportation operations, video intelligence, and intelligent infrastructure. This has been a production of the Transportation Channel.